Have you ever hit that point where your English study just feels completely stuck, no matter how much effort you put in? You listen to English podcasts every single day, maybe during your commute, maybe while doing chores around the house. You've been doing this consistently for months now, possibly even years. But if you're being completely honest with yourself, you still only understand about half of what's actually being said. You catch the main topic well enough, but the fast details, the idioms, the natural transitions between ideas, all of it seems to fly right over your head. You find yourself stuck at this permanent, frustrating 50% comprehension level, month after month. You keep telling yourself, I just need to keep listening. Eventually my brain will magically click, and one day I'll simply understand everything. But months pass, and nothing really shifts. This is what we can call the listening plateau, and it's an incredibly common place for learners to get stuck. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Passive, high-volume listening, on its own, doesn't actually build advanced comprehension. If you're listening to audio that's too fast or too complex, without any real system behind it, your brain eventually just tunes it out entirely, treating it as background noise, the same way you'd tune out traffic outside your window. You end up reinforcing your own frustration rather than your actual fluency. To break through that 50% barrier and genuinely reach 90% comprehension, you need to change how you're listening, not just how much. You need a deliberate strategy. Today, we're going to walk through how to choose a podcast that actually fits your current level, break down a genuinely powerful technique called the 3-pass listening method, and finish with a transcript checking approach that turns those frustrating gaps in your listening into permanent, lasting vocabulary gains. Let's start with how to actually choose the right audio material in the first place. The biggest mistake most intermediate learners make is choosing podcasts that are simply too difficult for where they currently stand. They dive straight into fast-paced political debates, dense philosophical lectures, or raw, unscripted street comedy shows, assuming that exposure to the hardest possible content will somehow accelerate their progress. But here's the problem with that approach. If you only understand about half of the words being spoken, your brain genuinely doesn't have enough context clues left to figure out the rest on its own. There's simply too much missing information at once. To make real, steady progress, you need to select audio based on a concept language teachers call comprehensible input. In simple terms, this just means audio should sit right at your current level, maybe just a small step above it, not miles ahead. When you open a new podcast episode and listen to the first 2 minutes, aim for what we can call a comfort benchmark, somewhere around 60 to 70% basic comprehension. You should be able to easily understand the main theme of what's being discussed. You should be able to follow the general timeline and understand how the different speakers relate to each other. The vocabulary should feel mostly familiar and comfortable, but there should still be a handful of fast phrases or unfamiliar words scattered throughout that you don't fully catch on the first listen. This 60 to 70% zone is really the sweet spot for your brain's audio processing system. It's easy enough that you don't feel discouraged or lose focus entirely, but still challenging enough that your mind is genuinely forced to work actively to decode the missing pieces, rather than coasting passively. If a podcast episode feels like a complete blur of sound from start to finish, that's a clear signal to turn it off. It's simply not the right fit for you yet. Set it aside for later, scale back to a host who speaks a bit more clearly, and find that comfortable sweet spot before you start any real training. Once you've found an episode that genuinely fits your level, resist the urge to just play it once from start to finish while scrolling on your phone. To actually climb that comprehension ladder in a meaningful way, you'll want to use something called the 3-pass listening method. Instead of working through a full hour-long episode, select a short segment, somewhere around 3 to 5 minutes long. You're going to listen to this exact same segment 3 separate times, shifting your focus slightly with each pass through. On the first pass, think of it as building your global map, focusing purely on context. Press play, and if it helps, close your eyes. Don't take notes yet, and don't worry at all about individual words you might be missing along the way. Your only goal during this first listen is to map out the bigger picture. Ask yourself, what's the speaker's emotional tone here? What's the core problem or topic they're actually discussing? What are the major points or arguments they seem to be making? This first pass builds a solid logical foundation in your mind, something to build on during the next 2 listens. On the second pass, think of it as your sniper scope. focusing specifically on the gaps. Listen to that exact same segment again, immediately after the first pass. This time, your focus shifts. Since you already understand the general story and structure, your brain now has extra energy available to zoom in on the blurry, unclear sections you missed the first time around. Pay close attention to specific prepositions, connected speech shortcuts, or vocabulary that slipped past you earlier. Keep a notepad nearby, and jot down the approximate timestamps of any sections that still sound like an unclear wall of sound to you. On the third and final pass, think of it as a micro-shadow, focusing entirely on rhythm. Listen to the same clip one more time, but now pay attention purely to the music of the language itself. Notice where the speaker naturally pauses, which specific words they emphasize with extra volume or stress, and how they shorten or blend smaller filler words together as they speak. By exposing your brain to that exact same short clip 3 times in a row, each time with a slightly different filter applied, you naturally push your comprehension from around 50% up toward 80%, often before you've even looked at a single written word on a page. The final step, the one that actually bridges the gap from around 80% all the way up to genuine 90% comprehension, requires a bit of visual confirmation. You need to verify what your ears actually heard against what was really said. This is where the transcript checking technique comes in. Once you've finished your third pass, open up the written transcript for that specific 5-minute podcast segment. Go directly to the timestamps you noted down during your second pass, essentially your own personal blind spots from earlier. First, do what we can call a sound-to-text match. Look carefully at the written text for the sentence you originally struggled with. Read it silently to yourself. In the vast majority of cases, you'll look at that text and think, wait, I actually know every single one of these words. Why didn't I catch this while listening? The answer, almost every single time, comes down to connected speech, those natural blends and shortcuts we've talked about elsewhere. Press play on the audio one more time, this time, while looking directly at the written text in front of you. Watch and listen closely as the speaker's natural pronunciation transforms those simple, familiar words into a smooth, blended shortcut you weren't expecting. Second, build what we can call an anchor log. If you happen to discover a completely new idiom, phrasal verb, or piece of slang while reading through the transcript, don't just memorize its dry, dictionary-style definition in isolation. Instead, highlight the entire sentence it appeared in, and copy that full sentence into your notebook. This becomes what we can call an anchor sentence. By saving the word alongside the actual story and context it appeared in, your brain stores that vocabulary using something closer to episodic memory, memory tied to a real moment rather than an abstract, disconnected fact. The next time you hear a native speaker use that same phrase in a live, real conversation, your mind won't just dig up a flat textbook definition. It will instantly recall the entire scene, the tone, and the context from that specific podcast episode where you first encountered it. This kind of targeted, repeated review permanently seals your listening gaps and genuinely solidifies advanced comprehension over time. A high level of English listening comprehension was never some kind of genetic gift handed to a lucky few, and it definitely doesn't require hours spent sitting in a boring, formal classroom either. It's really just the natural result of high-quality, structured habits applied consistently over time. By moving away from random, passive background listening and shifting instead toward this focused 3-pass method combined with transcript verification, you give your brain the precise tools it genuinely needs to decode fast, natural speech, the kind you'll actually encounter in real life. Stop settling for that frustrating 50% ceiling. Train your ears intentionally and watch your true potential start to unlock, one focus session at a time. So here's your action step for today. Open up your favorite podcast app right now and find a show where the host speaks at a clear, natural, comfortable pace. Select just 3 minutes from a recent episode and run it through Pass 1 and Pass 2 right now. Before you do anything else, commit to this kind of active ear training starting today, and watch how quickly that familiar conversational fog begins to clear. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.